Stuck between buying the new petrol light range busting new Tesla Model Y long range rear wheel drive, bit of a mouthful that, and the 2025 Tesla Model Y long range all wheel drive, heck, even the Model Y Performance. Some of you may recall that I have previously produced some of the most useful and relatable Tesla Model 3 and Model Y comparisons on YouTube, as highlighted by some of you before. So whilst I am partially biased maybe on that claim, I genuinely believe that my Tesla trim comparisons are like no other comparison video on the internet. And that's because I'm trying to tackle the question from a different angle, a different perspective, and try to just help bring the comparison to life a little by helping you identify how much each trim is useful for your own unique circumstances. And I did a similar thing with my 2025 Tesla Model 3 comparison just last week, for which we did actually include some detailed range simulations between the different trims. But for the Model Y comparison here, we will be doing it a little bit different because there are some distinct advantages by jumping up to the long range all-wheel drive with this Model Y. Therefore, this video is produced so you know exactly what those differences are and who that's going to suit most and why, and perhaps the most interesting point, helping you decide if that jump is going to be your money well spent for your circumstances. So whether you're new to Tesla EVs or if you're already a Tesla owner looking to upgrade to a new Tesla Model Y, this video should help you address which one of these 2025 Tesla Model Ys you should buy. And hopefully I've set the scene a little for the remainder of the video, but before I do kickstart the video, I appreciate it if you could just drop the video a cheeky like, subscribe if you haven't already, and do hit that notification bell as it really does help me out. Right, let's get into it. So starting with the main course, let's start with what you potentially think is the biggest and most important difference, the range and charging speed differences with the 2025 variants. Well, the old base rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y of 283 miles WLTP has officially been replaced with 373 miles of the long-range rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y. And yep, overnight Tesla just decided to flip a switch and thought, let's get petrol-like range to consumers for only a couple grand more. That'd be money well spent, right? Well, to some, this will be a game-changing decision and enough to pull the trigger on the purchase alone. But for others, the monthly price and the cash price has now increased as a result, meaning the cheapest time to buy a Tesla Model Y was actually in the Q3 of 2024. But for the total range that you do get compared to the price you pay, getting the most efficient Tesla Model Y ever produced delivers you the Tesla Model Y with the lowest running costs of the whole lineup. So Tesla's new entry-level Model Y clearly does pack a punch when it comes to the mighty range punch, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot more for it. The max charging speed for all three Model Y offerings are at a tremendous 250 kilowatts, for which again makes this base Model Y even more attractive trim to beat. So how does the range stack up against the all-wheel drive long-range Model Y then? Well, at 331 miles WLTP, being 42 miles less than the rear-wheel drive variant, for an extra 5k or $3,000 US, the all-wheel drive long range makes a key difference in other areas that may be vastly more important than the range difference to you. And as a matter of fact, is that 42 miles really going to make a difference to you day to day? Probably not, because how often are you actually driving over those 330 miles per day to actually warrant that range boost? Because ultimately most users will drive under 330 miles a day and then they're going to plug in at home overnight and have almost full charge once again at your disposal. The performance Model Y, that's only going to set you back another 12 miles at 319 miles WLTP, for which on range alone, the margins of people that will actually feel that difference in range here is negligible in real world conditions. Beyond range and charging speed, now I must answer where the real 2025 Tesla Model Y differences are felt. Well, for the first time globally, the Tesla Model Y long range all-wheel drive will exclusively have the third row being the 7-seat layout, for which you may have missed the twist here. This option is then going to set you back another $2,000 or £2,500, and it is not available on the long range rear wheel drive or the performance model. Therefore, if this layout is a priority to you, then your only option here is going to be the all-wheel drive long-range Model Y variant, and there is no other way around that. The good news though is that this is now available in the UK and Europe for the very first time, despite it being in the US for some years now. And I know some of you will then debate the usability of this third row option for the Tesla Model Y, and to me, This definitely does look usable, and I fully agree there probably are a whole lot more spacious options for a third row outside of Tesla. But if you do want a 7-seat Tesla without the Model X price tag, I'd just end up trying to maximize the space of it has to offer here, but just ensuring that you're not actually sticking your largest passengers in the back. But let me know what you think about that layout. Beyond the 7-seat layout option, there is another key difference here which could be a deal breaker for you, particularly if you are in the US or North American markets. And that's because just like the base Model 3, you will only get partial premium interior on the base Model Y long range rear wheel drive. And what that essentially means is that you're going to have a speaker setup of 7 speakers, 1 amp for immersive sound audio, compared to 30 speakers, 1 subwoofer and 2 amps for the premium sound found in the all-wheel drive long range Model Y and the performance Model Y. UK and Europe though, we don't have this difference in setup between the trims. However, for US viewers that are audiophiles, and hopefully that came out clearly, this is another key difference that could make or break your purchase. Only you can decide that. And the final point for consideration before we actually end up discussing some of the more practical differences between the trims, we need to discuss the performance enhancement. And as part of that performance package that you get access to the exclusive 21-inch Uber Tyre Bound wheels, the red performance brake pads, the carbon fibre spoiler, and the performance all-wheel drive motor, which directly influences the 0 to 60, which we'll pick up in just a second. I just need to highlight one more thing about that performance variant, and I believe it does sit slightly lower to the ground than other models, and you can actually see that gain quite easy when you actually end up flicking through the trims and the configurator. So moving on to the practical differences. Well, the new long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y is no slouch. Despite packing the larger battery pack and being a single motor variant, it still completes a 0 to 60 in a healthy 5.7 seconds, which is pretty respectable acceleration time to the average Joe to have at their disposal. The all-wheel drive long range can drop that down to 4.8 seconds, and the performance upgrades take it to 3.5 seconds, which is freakishly fast for the size of the vehicle. So respectfully speaking, these new 2025 Tesla Model Ys are not slow. None of them are. But if you like to know you can go faster, perhaps consider the all-wheel drive long range or the performance, and you may also continue to get the acceleration boost unlocked via a payable software upgrade with the all-wheel drive versions. Beyond acceleration, what I think people will prefer about the all-wheel drive variants is the greater traction control that the dual motor variant does bring. Outside miserable, wet and wintry England, it gets a lot colder elsewhere, and whilst the rear-wheel drive long range setup will be great, the all-wheel drive variants will be even better, and it's just facts. Otherwise, the interior, this is going to be exactly the same. The FSD computers will be exactly the same, and that's going to be their hardware for FSD computer, by the way, as well as the suite of cameras. So FSD and autopilot will remain the same. So all these spec points are the same throughout, and that makes leaning on the base long range rear wheel drive even more convincing as a result. Even when it comes to the warranty, the battery motor warranty and the general warranty, they're exactly the same between all the trims. So there really is not much when it comes to the actual interior spec or the warranty that is different. So let's look to wrap things up. So to conclude, which Tesla Model Y is going to be better for you? The 2025 Tesla Model Y long range rear wheel drive, the long range all wheel drive, or the Tesla Model Y performance? Well, I can't make that decision for you, but you do need to point and decipher which points are most important for you, or even do it the other way around. Discount those boosts or specs that aren't important for you just to determine which model best suits you. Generally speaking, value for money, this new long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y will be extremely popular. And the upsell really is about the 7-seat layout and the all-wheel drive driving experience. Other than that, out-and-out performance. In my head, they're the key differentiators here. As for most people, they're not going to notice that range difference, but for business users, I do understand that, so the range may be more so on your side. But to the average driver, etc., the range difference between the different trims, they're not going to be a contributing factor, in my eyes at least. And the base Model Y is such a good spec now that you could actually get yourself some optional paint upgrades, maybe a few decent accessories. And if you want some accessories that I got for my Tesla Model Y from one of the leading third-party accessory providers, I'll drop a video link on the screen now. So did today's video help you at all? What are you leaning to? What is the best Model Y trim that you think there is now? Is it worth Tesla dropping the all-wheel drive long-range variant? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't already, subscribe, share the video with your friends and family that may actually find this video beneficial. Look in the video description as well, as there could be some cheeky discounts that you can take advantage of. You folks have been great, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.